Hi, Rachel. Thank you for joining me and being one of my first guests on my new podcast, The Resilient Entrepreneur Show.
Very excited.
I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the past few months with our group that we do together on personal growth. And I know that you are a founder and managing partner for the Lioness Woman and that you've been a business owner for 25 years now. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your business?
So, in terms of when I was younger, my dad actually had a business. And when I was 16 years old, I had an idea to kind of redo one of his departments. And I was like, give it to me. Like, if it is that I do it. I want to be able to make some money from it. And he's like, sure, if you could revamp it, go ahead. And so I was able to do his turnover because we dealt with kids from having like 10 kids every 2 weeks to having 100 plus children coming to his camps every 2 weeks. And so that was my summer job from there. And I was able to make some income from that. And then from there, I kind of pushed out into my own venture when I was 24 years old. And so I've had that business. I think she turned 17 this year. So, one of the things I've always loved entrepreneurship. When I came here to the US, of course, we started the Lioness Woman, which is more in terms of a spiritual direction versus my other businesses, which tends to be more focused on children and building legacy. But it's business and organization is something that has always been a love of mine, a passion of mine, and something that I've always been good at. I remember I always tell people when I was 8 years old, I found my dad's pornography magazines, and so I was photocopying them and selling them off at school. So even, even, even at a very young age, even though it was not necessarily the most moral thing, I've known how to make money. Or I found his porn videos and I used to charge the guys to come over to watch them when I was 10, 11. So I've always been very entrepreneurial, even if it wasn't always on the best moral path, but I've always known and
I'm
tried to make
shocked. I'm
money.
shocked to hear that because what I know of Rachel today is very spiritual, very, very religious, focused, and morally straight person. So that's this. But I love the even just starting at the camp and saying, "How do I help you grow this, Dad? How do I help reach a broader audience?" And just having that entrepreneurial spirit as a teenager,
Yes.
and having that always be your driver is
Yes. Always, always.
wonderful. So I know you've been a business owner for a long time now, 5 years with the Lioness Woman here in Florida in the United States. What's your proudest achievement as an entrepreneur or business owner?
I think when it is that I kind of went off on my own, because I was working with my dad since I was 12. And I think when it is that I stepped out on my own and I did it by myself, I think that was maybe my proudest. And even though, like, now a 24-year-old entrepreneur is like old now in the game, back in the day, like 17 years ago, 24 years old to be doing your own thing was like crazy. At that time, 24 years old as a Black woman doing something as well was even crazier within my country. And we did it at such a prestige level. Like, we were in one of the top neighborhoods. We had this dynamic program that nobody else was doing. And so I think for me, being able to develop what it was, because yes, it could just be a place that does children's services. We had daycare and preschool and camps and homework club and all of that, but we built this whole company. Like, we had a board of directors, we would meet on weekends, we would do a lot of visioning sessions. I mean, we have this huge vision for the company. We had different systems in place. Like, it was run like a Fortune 500 company in terms of policies and procedures and all of the different things, but it was just this school. And the thing about it is, like, because we took the time to build out such a strong foundation and to have such strong systems, I'm able to see even 17 years. I haven't been in my business for the last 7 years, but it's still operating. It's still producing for me in a particular way and still, you know, feeding me in a particular way, and I'm still able to benefit from it so that now I could focus my attention on something new. So I think for me, always important in terms of that foundation building within your business. I have seen where, hey, if you give this what it needs in the beginning, it's going to work for you at the end.
I love that. The strong foundation and the systems are sometimes forgotten about, but that's what allows you to create a sustainable, scalable business that really
Oh, for
can
sure.
grow and survive over the long haul. If
For
you don't
sure.
have good foundation or repeatable processes or good systems, if you don't have that operational mindset, you could have a great idea as an entrepreneur, but it's not scalable, sustainable, and growing, right?
For sure. And just to add to that too, I think a lot of times people forget how important a team is. Like one of the things, because I was a young business person, there's actually somebody in, well, Kate is accustomed to me. There's this guy in the Bible called Rehoboam. And he was actually the son of Solomon. And he had this opportunity that happened when his father died. Of course, we know King Solomon, who's known as the wisest king that ever lived. And he had this opportunity when his dad died. He could have either listened to those who went before in terms of the advisors of his father, or he could have listened to his friends who were youths. And he listened to his friends and he ended up losing 10 out of the 12 kingdoms that his father ruled over. And that was always like a lesson for me. So even at 24, I was like, you know what? I want to get these wiser people. I want to get these people who are very established within their fields. And I want them to come in and partner with me and help me to build this business that is going to be not just, a school, but this brand that translates into so many different places. So, to add to the thing of just not just the foundation building, but to understand, hey, I have limitations as an entrepreneur. I need to have wisdom around me. I need to have people who know what they're doing around me, people I could trust, people I could tap into so that I'm now able to build something that is, worthy, or something that you could be proud of and say, yes, we put in the work for this. Now we could see the results with it.
I think that's huge and wise of you at a young age to surround yourself with people who have complementary skills and strengths and wisdom and experience to build that board of advisors and directors and to know your own limitations. But also, I love the gender busting, ageism busting. Like you,
Oh,
as a
yeah.
young entrepreneur, you were like, I'm going to build this despite the fact that other people may not believe in me because of my age or my gender or my race or ethnicity, but like
Mm,
not letting stereotypes stand in the way of what you believed that you could accomplish and how you could become a successful entrepreneur.
of
I'm sure
course.
that that might lead into, if we're talking about failure or some of the challenges about being a business owner, because we know no business is all peaks without valleys, right? We all have to go through some of that hard trials and tribulations and challenges and learning experiences as we grow in our journey of business ownership. Tell me a little bit more about, being a young female person of color, entrepreneur and business owner, new to the United States, immigrant to the United States, all of those things working against you, how you did rise through those challenges and become
So
a
I love
successful
that you
entrepreneur.
pinpoint to that because, you know, as you add different descriptions to it, is the more challenges you tend to face when you come into the entrepreneurial space. Um, I think for me, there are challenges, and to say this, there are challenges you will always go through as an entrepreneur. You're going to go through capital, not having enough capital for a project. You're going to go through times where, you feel like you don't have support. You're going to go through times where you're not making profits. Like there are genuine things that you go through naturally with it. However, I think for me personally, I've had like a real walk with mental health. And a lot of times, in entrepreneurship, because we're the leader, we don't get to necessarily say, we don't get to just throw a fit. We don't get to show our weakness. We don't get to show up and work and cry that day. And so a lot of it is things that we have to push down, a lot of things that we have to hide. We have to be strong for everybody, especially within Black culture. I could find like, because it may not necessarily be that everybody else was doing this before. If you don't come from a business oriented family or come from a business legacy, you're the first one doing it. So everybody is depending on you to be strong, and you don't get weak days. And so there was a lot of imposter syndrome that was there. There was a lot of depression at a lot of times where I would just 3 days or for the weekend, I would just hide out, and I just didn't feel supported. There was a lot of crying that was done with it, especially when I went through the tough times, because even things like mentorship, that's one of the things I love about the US. Like, people are so willing to mentor individuals. That's something that you guys have that definitely you should tap into. But when you don't have the mentorship, when you don't have the support, when you don't have the capitals or the funds and all of these things, and you have to walk this journey with what seems like you're walking it alone, a lot of depression and a lot of
Mhm.
imposter syndrome can come up for you as an individual. And that was something I think in my whole journey, and I saw it in my first business. I saw it when I was here in the US as well. That thing just creeping in, saying that you can't do it, you're not enough. What do you think you're doing? You're not like this person. The comparison, or this person has 1 million people, and how long you've been doing it, and you're not good enough, and all of those type of words come into you, and it can really shut you down and sometimes even stop you on your journey with entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I agree. And again, going back to like the mentorship or the support or building your own circle, I think we found that in our growth group that we were in this summer, of women supporting other women and cheering each other women on. And it's not comparison or competition, but rather it's cooperation and collaboration and support of like, you've
Mhm.
got this, girl. Like, I know you can do this. I believe in you. I see the strength and the intelligence and the curiosity and how brave you are. Like, show up, and you can dream big. Like we talked about, challenging each other to have bigger dreams and bigger goals, and that you don't have to do it alone, right? Like you and I have
Yes,
often talked about, where you feel like you now, as an entrepreneur, have all this additional responsibility, and with that great freedom and flexibility of entrepreneurship comes great responsibility. but
that's it.
but finding outlets of support from friends or circles or mentors or your board of advisor group or your religious group or community of some nature, where you can be vulnerable and share the feelings that you have, right? And not suppress those emotions. I was really taken away by how you and the girls in that group are very good at sharing and being vulnerable and talking about the mental and the spiritual health, and not being afraid of sharing those struggles.
Yes, yes, for
It's
sure.
not taboo, right?
Yeah,
It's okay.
yeah.
Everyone struggles. Everyone goes through it. We just don't always talk about it.
For sure. And one of the things you were talking about earlier when we were talking is also making that time for yourself. I think
Mm.
so much as entrepreneurs, we show up for everyone, and we don't realize, like, you literally cannot pour from an empty cup. And we pour and pour and pour and pour and pour so much. And the reality is, sometimes, and unfortunately sometimes, our spouses are not able to do it. Unfortunately, our kids are not able to, because we're pouring so much into them. So finding those groups and finding those things that pour back into you are so important on this journey. And it allows you to be able to show up in the authenticity of who you are, because you're not coming from a place of depletion or a place from people pleasing, or I'm doing this because this person wants this, but you're coming from this place of, hey, I genuinely want to be here. I genuinely want to show up, and I genuinely want to give the best of who I am to serve the community around me.
Exactly. And that's an area that I still, as we know, am struggling with, is that balance of self love and space for health and mental and spiritual guidance and growth and personal development,
Mhm.
as well as professional development, when you are, as a mother, working mother, entrepreneur, spouse, partner, daughter, friend, balancing all of these
Mhm.
conflicting responsibilities and
Mhm.
priorities.
Mhm.
It's
And just in terms of that, even as a female entrepreneur, we have to know that the things that makes us attractive or makes us capable to do entrepreneurship in terms of business is the same things that people draw upon in our personal lives, which is why we're that friend, that wife, that mother, that cousin, that daughter. Like we're that girl for everybody else, or that person for everybody else. And because we've been that person so many times, everybody doesn't really expect that we need anything back. And so it could be such a draining, lonely, depressed pathway. And really and truly, you could just feel like you're alone in this thing. And it's one of the struggles. Again, I would use a story from the Bible. There was this guy called Elijah, and he just had an amazing breakthrough, doing what he did for God. But then, like, right after, he got into a major depression, and it was like, I'm the only person that's doing this, and I'm the only person that's working this. And at that point, God had to show him, hey, no, there are 7,000 other people that are doing this. But because he was so outside of community and outside of pouring into himself, because he was so busy pouring into everybody else, he lost that opportunity to be able to be in community and to be filled up in a particular way, and also lost out some spiritual benefits with that. So again, it's really important for us to understand how important it is, yes, to show up in the best way that we can for everybody else and for our business. But most importantly, you need to be showing up for yourself. That's most important.
I love that. Yes, very well, very, very wise. So I wanted to talk about the future. So what is next? And I want to ask a couple of questions in like less than 5 words, short answers about your plan of growth and what you're focusing on next. So the first question is, what is on the plan to grow your business for the rest of this year?
She said 5 words. I need a little more words on 5 words for that one. I think one of the things that I am discovering about myself is the storytelling element of myself. And so I'm really going to be tapping into that. And I want to be able to do storytelling, whether it's from a stage, whether it's from an AI video, or from a book. I want to tap into that to be able to tell the message that I have to tell to the world.
I love that. Yes, the storytelling. And
Mhm.
your first step that you're taking towards that goal?
Hmm.
Being a guest on people's podcasts before you start your own?
Yeah, I think I'm going through my own transition and my own rebranding. So I'm getting to know this version of myself. I'm not the 16-year-old entrepreneur anymore. I'm not the 24-year-old entrepreneur anymore. I'm not even the 35-year-old entrepreneur anymore. I'm I'm just in this discovery stage now that I'm 41. And so I think there's a rebranding internally that's taking place that I want to fully embrace and walk authentically in that. And I think from there, the steps are going to become clearer.
Mm. And do you see any obstacles in your way?
Myself, always. Your obstacle will always be yourself, your doubts, your limitations. That's
Yes.
always the obstacles that are there. So that's why I think I want to stay in that energy that I have of kind of discovering who I am now as an entrepreneur. Because in doing that, all of the obstacles that are there will be worked out first, and then we could move ahead with what it is that's next.
I love that. And I always ask, how can I help?
Oh, just show up every last Friday. It is so inspirational. Like when it is, she talks about like us talking about our stuff, but Kate is like business. And I just love to hear her talk and the numbers that she talks. And I'm just like, when I grow up, I want to be Kate, you know?
I
So
think
just keep showing up.
I have the confidence. We all benefit from each other in that group in our little support group. But I don't know that I have the imposter syndrome. I have the confidence in the big
Yeah,
audacious
you have
goals.
it. You have it.
But I do challenge I with the balance of
Mhm.
people pleasing others, doing and performing for others versus what prioritizing myself, right? And you all help me with that too. So
Yeah, yeah. So just keep showing up on the Fridays and just being yourself, and that's good enough for me.
surrounding ourselves with our support circle of strong female
Mm,
entrepreneurs, right?
for sure, for sure.
Well, thank you for being so open and honest and vulnerable and sharing your stories about being a resilient entrepreneur because it's hard, right? I think we all make it look glamorous and people see the top of the iceberg, but not all the work that happens underneath, right? And
Mhm.
it's wonderful to hear other people's stories, to be able to share other people's stories. And I love how you are so vulnerable and authentic in your storytelling.
Thank you.
Now that you've been on my show, who do you recommend for me to interview next?
That's a good Jamie.
Jamie, she, I've asked her. She needs to get on my calendar. Brittany and Jamie, right?
Yeah, for
Have them share their
sure.
stories.
I think Jamie has such a I don't know. I don't know Brittany's story. Well, no, Brittany has a great story as well. But
Mhm.
Jamie, for sure, I think just that transition to Mexico and just all that God did in terms of just her shift with where she was at and all the things she was doing, and then this major shift that she has done, I think she'll be excellent for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for coming and being one of my first guests. I appreciate you and look forward to continuing to support each other and growing our businesses.
Of course, and congratulations on the launch.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm looking forward.